Hello, everybody. It's John Browning with the Building Your Life podcast. We're glad to be back, and I have a special guest with me today, Jordan Labelle. And Jordan, I nobody can introduce you better than you can introduce yourself. So tell us a little bit about what you do for people, and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Jordan Labelle, I'm the owner of Evergreen Growth Collective. What we do is we are fractional partners for business owners. So we help with the strategy, the operations of helping build good, successful, sustainable businesses that people can enjoy having now in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, maybe retire, maybe pass it down, but really build a business they love working in. And a lot of people have great ideas or skills they want to provide in a business, but maybe don't have the business expertise or that person in their corner who can help them be successful, make sure they are looking at the right things and focusing on the most important work. That's what we do at Evergreen. And the way I got there was really through doing this for the last 15 years in other organizations. So the one I spent the most time in was a tech organization, about 9 years as their head of product as we grew up in different roles and titles. But really what that meant was I had to understand the entire business from all of our stakeholders, from CEO, CFO, marketing partners, sales, you name it. I had to know what that looked like so I could incorporate it into what products we built. And I needed to deeply understand our customers to know what they wanted in our products. So I just got really used to talking with lots of different people about lots of different problems. Our customers at the time happened to be small business owners. We had over 10,000 business owners in e-commerce. And so my conversations on a weekly basis were with a bunch of small business owners, helping them build better e-commerce businesses. And now I'm just doing that full time for myself.
Awesome. And you've done it for like 15 years, right?
Yeah. 15 years of working inside of other businesses, doing some of my own businesses on the side, and now just kind of culminated in deciding I love working with small business owners, medium-sized business owners, helping them just build better businesses. That's the thing that I love doing and I'm really good at. So why not do it full time, do it in my own way for businesses that I think deserve a chance to really succeed, and business owners who deserve that life of having more control over their time, their income, choosing how and when they want to be working, and building something that's great for other people as well.
So is that the biggest thing that you see out there, is kind of the getting their life back, because we all go into small business thinking, well, I want to have the freedom to be my own boss, and or a lot of us do, right? And then we
Yep.
find out that it begins to eat our time, and worse, it sometimes begins to eat our peace. And I always
Yeah.
say you can't buy more time and all that, but for me, even more important than time is peace.
Hmm.
Peace that you're not staying up all night. And a lot of what we do here at Guardian Rock Wealth is help people find financial peace. And it all kind of meshes in together, right? With if you own a small business, that financial aspect can sometimes keep you up at night. And how do you deal
Yeah.
with that? And I'm guessing, because you talk about three things, right? Focus, accountability, and partnership together.
Yeah.
And so give me a story. Tell me a story about one of your favorite clients. Obviously, don't give any names or anything like that, but how you help them sort of find that focus, accountability, partnership, and ultimately that peace,
Yeah.
so that they can get on with their best life.
Absolutely. And that's such a big part of it. And why I wanted to be doing this is, so full disclosure, I have my own coach and advisors that I work with because I believe it so strongly that you need people outside of your organization helping you build it. Because the same advice that I give my clients, I'm sometimes the worst at taking for myself. So it's not that we all
Amen.
don't know what we need to do. The knowing is normally not the issue. It's the focus and the confidence to follow through on doing it that is. And so that piece and that time, we take a holistic approach. One of our values of the bottom line is not the only way we decide if a business is successful or not. It has to be like, is the owner running a sustainable life? Are they burning out by working 60 plus hours a week and having no social life? Or are they running their business in a way that lets them do the things they love, have time with their family, think about what they want to do on the weekend without dreading the calls they're going to get, they're going to interrupt them halfway through? So that's a big piece of what we do. The very first step we take with any client is take a look at how they're using their time, because their time is exactly right, the thing they can't get back. And once you have money coming into the business, you start getting dollars to solve problems with instead of your time to solve problems with. And so that's actually one of the clients we've worked with that saw the biggest difference was the first thing we did with them was like, let's take an audit of where your time is going, how you're spending your time as an owner versus all the things that you need to get done. We asked them questions around what they're really uniquely great at versus all the things that are currently on their plate. We ended up identifying a whole bunch of things that, yes, they were needed to be done and were important to the business being successful, but they were not the one who needed to be doing it. And in fact, them doing it probably hurt them more than it helped them. And so by moving those things off their plate onto somebody else's who was much better equipped to do those jobs and loved doing them, they freed up so much more of their time to work on what they were great at and take some of that time back for themselves to help reduce their burnout, their stress, bring more peace to their overall life. And they saw better business success because of it. They spent a little bit of money up front to bring the people in to help, but their long-term profit and success of the business just skyrocketed. And that's all it was just taking a look at where's the time going as a very first component and looking at where all those time sinks are that just don't need to be the owner. They can be somebody else.
Yeah, and it's all those little things. A lot of times too, I find this in my own business where, yeah, I can do that. It's easy, and I can do it in 5 minutes. But then it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, and suddenly it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I haven't
Yep,
gotten up out of my chair, and
exactly.
it's a struggle, especially for the small business owner who kind of struggles with that wherever they are in that spot where when do I hire or when do I outsource to a VA? How do I do it? And who do I
Yep.
trust? And all that. And it's the same way with financial advice. It sounds like maybe part of what you do is kind of what we do as well, which is put a personal board of directors around people and their finances, because I can't even help them with things that I can tell them they need to do, right? I can tell them they need to do an audit of their tax situation. I can give them ideas and questions to ask their CPA, but I'm not a CPA. I can tell
Mhm.
them they need an estate plan, they need to protect their assets, but I am not a lawyer. I can tell them about the best mortgages out there, but I'm not a mortgage broker. And same thing with their health care and their insurance and everything, on and on and on. And eventually you end up with a personal board of directors.
Yep.
And when I was working on Wall Street, I had that sort of board of directors around me. And, there's 10 or 12 people that reported to me, and I had kind of a chairman of the board, so to speak. And they would actually be my coach. Say, hey, you're not telling so and so the right thing to do when and all that. And I'll be great. You fix it, help me. But we begin to get myopic, right? When it's
Yep.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, like you said, like you don't know when to hire, and you followed it up with or outsource. But there's so many options out there now of contractors, freelancers, fractional employment, full-time employment. Like your options are so much more diverse than they ever have been, and you have access to a much bigger talent pool than you've ever had with the rise of remote work.
Yeah.
That it just simply doesn't have to be you. And once you have money coming in, it's not like you need to spend all of it to solve all these problems, but you start chipping away. The thing that you are the worst at doing or like doing the least, great, pay to get that off your plate. Then when you have some more money coming in, you can take the next thing and the next thing and the next thing to start scaling back the time commitment you need, but also to better leverage your time onto the things that you're uniquely valuable at doing, that you can see more growth in the business if you spend more of your time doing those things. And we do a similar thing with the personal board of directors. We call it our collective. So Evergreen Growth, that's me, that's our growth partners in the business. But the collective is all the people that we work with who are experts in their field. So I'm not an expert web developer, but I know a lot of them. I'm not an expert designer, but I know a lot of them. I am not an expert financial analyst of any kind, but I know a lot of them. And so our goal is same thing. We're there to help guide the ship of your business to make sure you're building it in a way that'll bring you the sustainability, the peace, the happiness, the success, and then match you up with the right people who you need for expertise at the amount you need them. So if it's 5 hours a week, great, we can get someone for you for 5 hours a week. You don't need to spend 40 hours a week on this person. And that's how we help them grow and succeed, is by giving them access. Like same thing. I spent 9 years with access to all of these really smart people around me in this tech company. And there's so many businesses who just don't get that same exposure to greatness at so many different things that they should. And so if I can find a way to help them get that insight, that expertise, that done for them, but only the amounts they need instead of having to hire a full-time person, they can go so much further faster than trying to, do it all themselves or pick the one thing they're going to hire a full-time person for at a time.
Yeah. So you talk about accountability, and that's a
Mm,
scary word for some people, right? Oh man, you're
yes,
going to yell at me if I don't do something, but I'm guessing that's not what you do, right? So
absolutely not.
tell me about that part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
How do you work with and help people with accountability?
Yeah. Accountability is always tricky because to me, accountability isn't, this might be maybe controversial. Accountability isn't finishing everything you said you were going to do. Accountability to me is having the right plan from the first place. So when we do our accountability with our clients, instead of waiting till the end to see if they finished it, we start at the beginning. And it's something I took from tech, which I do a lot of times. There's a concept called a pre-mortem. So when you have an outage or an incident, like everyone did with CrowdStrike, I think it was a little while ago. That was rough. Um, they're going to have a postmortem that's going to go through all the things that happened that led to this outage. So what processes were broken, what things got skipped, what led to that really terrible outcome. So what really good businesses do is instead of waiting for the bad thing to happen and then talk about how they could have prevented it, they do it ahead of time. So what could go wrong that would prevent us from accomplishing these goals? Or what could happen that would cause major outage or bad thing to happen? And then how can we protect ourselves against those bad things happening before they happen? So when we do goal setting, we ask them, what's going to stop you from accomplishing that goal ahead of time? What do you think? Like, is it going to be your kids not having childcare during the summer? That was my problem. So what can we do before we run into that problem to help prevent it? And we try to work with them on that in terms of accountability so that they clear their path to be able to be successful. And so at the end of the week, we still ask them, did you accomplish what you planned to accomplish? But instead of highlighting all the ways they fell short of their goals, we're able to more celebrate, look how much better off you are this week than you were last week because you accomplished all these things. And on average, our clients are accomplishing more of what they planned because we're pre-planning all the ways it might not happen before the week happens. And so that's our unique, maybe not unique, but different spin on accountability is how can we help clear the path for the work so that less obstacles and obstructions and things come up during the week that'll stop them from happening before they ever run into those problems.
Yeah, and part of what it is too for me, and I need somebody to hold me accountable, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's my wife. She's very good at it, but it's not. It really isn't about making you feel bad about something. It's almost in some cases I've found that it's that person in your life or that coach, that whoever it is for you. And often I think it's really important for it to be an independent third party that can see things we just can't see, and they can see
Yep.
things that maybe our relatives can't see or don't understand. Because how many relatives understand somebody who gets into small business? Like zero.
Yeah.
um, and it's so important to be able to almost challenge you when you get going on maybe a project or something that you're trying to do. And if you're, those hard driving business owners tend to not want to quit. And
Yep.
sometimes the answer is you need to stop and you need to go a different direction, because look at the
Mm-hmm.
numbers here. This is not working, and it's not likely to work. So what can we do to turn, make that direction change, and get where you want to go? Maybe it's a detour, right? I talk
Yep.
to people a lot about what's the roadmap. Guess what? With every road trip, at some point, there's probably going to be a detour, right? There's probably going to be
Absolutely.
something you got to go around. And it's that way with any plan and any goal. Sometimes they've got to be adjusted. So I'm sure that that's part of what I see as accountability is, hey, you know what? It's actually okay. It's not accountability like in your face, you didn't get this done. It's, hey, maybe we need to adjust.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, even like accountability is also someone to celebrate your wins. It's hard in as a business owner or in business in general. all you typically look at is all the things you wish were better. So you look at the goals you just fell short of. You look at how many clients you thought you were going to have versus how many you do have.
Yeah.
You like I've had people who've kind of like given me their update and they're, maybe a bit more down in the dumps in it. And I'm able to kind of pull out like, hey, like, look, sure, you wanted to get 3 clients. You got 2 clients. That's 2 more clients than you had the week before. So yes, would we have liked to have 3? Absolutely. But how much happier are you having 2 than 0? And so someone to really call out and make sure you're aware of like these successes are happening week to week. I think a lot of business owners burn out because they're so focused on all the goals they haven't hit that all they're seeing is the missed opportunities instead of realizing how far they've come and how successful they actually are. And I think if more of them had those reminders, in addition to the accountability to stay focused on the right things, they'd stay in it longer and start realizing the amount of success they're having. And so again, these aren't like knowledge problems. These are perspective, awareness, focus problems that someone outside the organization, it's not my baby, right? Their business is not my baby, but I want it to be successful like they do. So I can treat it with the objectivity to make sure we're asking the hard questions and we're focused on the right things and discovering those bottlenecks and unblocking them without the attachment to like wanting to do everything because I want it all to be perfect. I can see it for what it is. And I had the same blindness in my own business. I want it to be perfect because it's my baby. Whereas my coaches and advisors help me stay focused on, okay, but is that the most important thing to be working on this week? Probably not.
Yes, 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 yes. It really is. What we do is similar, but it's different, right? And
Yeah.
I run into first of all, you're talking to me right there because I'm constantly saying, I didn't I didn't hit this. I didn't hit this. I need to get the next one. I need to do the next thing, next thing, next thing. And I forget to celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
And it is tremendously therapeutic. I need to do more of it to go back and say, where was I not last month? This is another thing. We're so short-term focused, right? Not last month.
Yeah.
It's about at least last quarter, but really last year. Where are you from last year to now?
Yeah.
Have you moved forward? Most likely it's yes. And if it's no, then we got to talk about, well, we need to switch directions. We need to do
Yeah.
something different. But for the most part, we just forget to go back and look at the comparisons. Wow, we're that much further along. My
Big time.
One of my personal favorites, and this happens on a regular basis with my younger retirees, right? So they've already retired and they've begun to draw down on their savings, right? Because what happens when you quit your job? Well, your paycheck stops,
Right.
right? You're then your own personal paycheck protection program, right? I talk
Yep.
about that quite often. Well, they're withdrawing. Maybe they're withdrawing 4 or 5, sometimes $10,000 a month from their retirement accounts, and they're like, "Oh man, why isn't my retirement account growing?" I'm like, "Wait a second, you're taking 10 grand a month out, and
Yeah.
it's not falling because we set it up and we invested the right way to generate that kind of an income, so you didn't have to sell stuff. This is great news." You know?
Yep. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's difficult to get people to realize, hey, that's a win.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
It's
and
those
you don't
perspective
see it.
shifts.
Yeah, you just don't see it when it's you.
Yeah.
You need somebody
Exactly. And
else to show you.
that's exactly it. There's so many times, and again, I get to live this almost every day where I give a recommendation to a client or help them through something, and it's honestly helping me at the same time because it's something that I know, but just being able to provide that perspective change to somebody else to help them see it differently reminds me to also look at it differently. And so measuring backwards is a big thing we talk about. Um, Making sure that we know what does good look like ahead of time and we've defined it ahead of time so we're not after the fact trying to define what good should look like. So the balance staying level would be the target goal, right? That's great that the balance is staying level and not declining, whereas in the moment you might see the balance staying the same and be like, well, I thought it was supposed to go up, so this is not good. um it's really just that perspective and mindset shift often is the main problem. And then sometimes we do get into the nitty gritty where it is like, no, this is not a perspective change. This is a hard problem we've got to solve. And those are great too.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's important to look back, but you got to give yourself time. It
Yeah.
absolutely takes a certain amount of time before you see the results, just like going to the gym, going on
Yeah.
a diet, and anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Nothing happens overnight. Just looks like it does sometimes.
That's right. So let me switch gears a little bit. I mean, you've got a
Hmm.
thriving business, you've got some great clients. Have you ever had a client maybe that came to you, said they wanted help, and then they didn't really want the help or they didn't follow the advice? And tell us a little bit about that. What's the story there? Because I'm sure you have one. You've been in business long enough. You've had
Yeah.
one or several of those folks.
Yeah. I think there's two ways it happens in my mind. One is, again, they know it's the thing that they need to do, but they're really uncomfortable in doing it. So they put it off. They come back in the next week. We talk about the same thing. I give them some more tools to help reduce the uncomfortableness. And I think like I have posters up beside me that I keep there. And one is like, if you're afraid of doing something or putting off doing something, it's probably the number one thing you need to find a way to do. And so
Yes.
then my job transitions to becoming, how can I size this down into something that's like only a tiny bit uncomfortable? Because often after we do it a couple of times, we realize that it wasn't as scary as we thought it was going to be. I have a perfect example from my own experience of I used to be terrified of public speaking. Like the idea of going on this podcast years ago would have terrified me. I would have been canceling on you yesterday 100 times. But then I knew if I wanted to be, more of a leader, if I wanted to have my own business in the future, it was something that I was going to have to do. So I found ways I joined a small Toastmasters group. That was like a little bit uncomfortable, but it was like 10 people, not the end of the world. Then I did a couple of, smaller team meetings where 20, 30 people. I amped it up to a town hall at the company, 200 people.
Yeah.
And just over time, I was able to build it up. But like, you got to find that smallest chunk where you can still be a little bit afraid and uncomfortable, but willing to just do it anyways. Then you realize it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. So that's the one version of people kind of not following through. It's usually like a fear-based thing of I'm scared about being bad about it or bad at doing it. And so I'm going to put it off. So in my head, it's like Schrodinger's cat. If I don't do it, I could be great at it or I could suck at it. And I don't know because I haven't done it. Versus once I've done it, I'll know if I suck or if I'm good.
Or if you
Um,
can get better.
exactly, which everyone can. You can learn anything you want to learn.
Yeah.
Just depends how much you're willing to do it. The other one is embarrassment, I find, is like, and that's the one that I find those are the ones who don't get back to you. Like you have a really great discovery call, you're they're all gung ho to move forward. You send them the contract invoice, and then they don't reply to you for a day, 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, 14 days. Um, and it's because they're like there's an element of like they don't feel like they should have to get help building their business. They feel they should be able to figure this out on their own. They feel that embarrassment or guilt of like, I should be able to do this myself. I don't need somebody else to help me. And
Mhm.
so in those places, it's really being as supportive as I can of like, hey, I know it's a tough choice to let someone else in, and you're gonna have those skeletons in your closet. You're gonna have those things you wish you would have taken care of already that you haven't. I thought there's so many people where the first thing I tell them is like, hey, every piece of advice I'm gonna give you is not a shot at something you should have been doing. The first thing we're going to do is celebrate like you've gotten this business as far as you've gotten it because you put in the effort and done all the things you've done to get it here. All we're doing now is taking what you've already built and making it better. So there's no shame, there's no embarrassment, and like I haven't done this thing that like I very obviously should have done. Great. You know what's really easy for us now? We get to do that and make your business better. So it's an easy lever we can pull instead of having to find the hard ones. So just trying to shift people's mindset again of like it's not embarrassing that you haven't done it. It just means now we get to do it and make your business better. Perfect.
Perfect. I like it. Yeah. Well, I run into that a lot too. You get a successful, so some of the worst financial planners for their own financial future are my buddies from Wall Street. And by the way, that was my story. It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons that I started this business and I wrote the book, Build a Life, Not a Portfolio, because I gave up way too much of my life working crazy hours on Wall Street
Yeah.
and traveling all over the country and everything else. But guess what? It was great because I got to learn from some of the best minds in the business. It's fantastic. And I
Hmm.
take that now and I try and show these often very successful executives, sometimes business owners, show them how they can do it as well. But they do have that, like, well, I should be able to do this myself. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a really smart guy,
Yep.
and this is not that complicated. It's just, just the markets. All you have to do is buy the S&P 500 and you're fine, right? There's a lot of myths out there like that, right? Because
Yep.
of the internet and everything else, there's a lot of stuff out there that's just not really accurate.
Hmm.
And then you add in, taxes in there, and how can you not pay too much in taxes, and what's your cash flow versus your assets? Big difference, right? You know that from a business
Yeah.
perspective. You can
Hmm.
have amazing, wonderful, huge assets, but if you don't have cash flow, not just cash, but cash flow, you're in
Yeah.
trouble. It's a
Absolutely.
real problem, right? How many
Yeah.
I'm sure you've run into a business that has great assets, but was just about going under, or maybe did go under because they didn't have cash flow.
Yeah. It happens all the time. And I think a lot of it comes from just that, like, it's exactly that. They feel like I have this great business and I had this cash flow problem, and now I'm either embarrassed or I feel like I should be able to sell this myself, that I don't want to get someone to help me. And then it ends up being too late, and they have this great business that they built up. They probably are able to create a great environment for their staff, create good jobs for people who deserve these good jobs. Some of the greatest business owners end up out of business because they just feel like they have to be the one to have all the answers, which is silly, right? Like, in what other world do we expect anybody to know everything about everything, right? Like, everyone's going to have their skills, their strengths,
Yeah.
myself included, which is why, like, I built a business around helping businesses because I love building businesses. When it comes to, like, if I were to start an e-commerce company, there's so much about that I just know I'd be terrible at. Like, yes, I know the mechanics. Yes, I could start it, but I would suck at running an e-commerce business myself.
Yeah.
And so knowing what your strengths are, right, and knowing where you might need help, and just being okay with the fact that, like, it's impossible for you to know everything there is to know about everything, lets you be a bit more open to, okay, we have a cash flow problem. I will absolutely do my best to try to solve it, but maybe it's time to bring someone in to help get an objective third party view of, like, what are we missing? Because we've got a good business. Let's not, just try to bang our heads against the wall until we're out of money and have no answers.
Yeah. And you look at the most successful people out there, like yourself, and you look at, but let's like pick a really big name, right? Um, Tony Robbins,
Yeah,
Grant Cardone, whatever you think about them or whatever, but clearly they've made a lot of money for themselves, right? And they've built big
absolutely.
organizations. And one of the first things that John Maxwell, another great one, right? These people have built great organizations not on what they know, but knowing what they don't know, and being
Hmm.
willing to take the feedback, being confident in what they do know, being so confident that they know what they don't know, and asking for that help, being confident enough to ask for the help and get the help, and
Yeah,
then follow the advice and follow through, having the grit to do that. That's what makes not just a successful business, but on my side of things, it's what makes a successful, ultimately, retirement, is
yep,
that you've planned well because you've put those people around, that personal board of directors around you, that makes you successful. And you're responsible for that, right? It's still you.
absolutely.
You're responsible for getting and accepting that help to, so that's still you, but you got to do it, right? And just like Nike, you got to do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got to find those people. It's the old saying we all get, right? Like, you're the some of your five closest friends, your five closest connections. Apply the same logic in business, right? If you have a business, the five people you most closely put around yourself to help you grow it, that's going to be the average that you become. So if you want to grow a successful business, surround yourself with people who will help you grow a successful business. And that's where friends and family are great. There's nothing wrong with friends and family. They're great support mechanisms, but they're not going to give you the accountability, the focus, the partnership, the advice you need to really grow that successful business. And so don't eliminate them from your circle, but just choose how you're going to leverage them, right? Don't ask them for business advice because they're going to give you what they think is best, which is rolling the dice, right? Surround yourself with people who have the answers, who've been there, done it, who can use their lived experiences and their learned experiences to help you make better decisions.
I often use the quote, don't let blind people proofread your vision.
Absolutely.
I love that. And it's nothing against your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin, right?
No.
They love you. Typically, they are just saying things that they really feel like are going to protect you.
Yep.
But what they may actually be doing is they might be holding you back from your true purpose, your
Hmm.
piece as you define it, not as somebody else defines it, right?
Exactly.
So
They're not
finding
in
that.
this world
Yeah, exactly.
most often. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this, you know what? I really appreciate this. This is a great conversation. And I hope that folks take away from it this really amazing concept that can be so hard to grasp, which is accept the help. There are people out there that genuinely are really good at what they do and they would love to help you. And even
Hmm.
people like Jordan who will not just help you himself, but help put that personal board of directors around you, like we do here at
Yeah.
Guardian Rock as well, to make you even more and more successful following your vision. You give me your vision, right? And then I've got the raw materials that we call money and the tool that we call money. I can make the sculpture that you want. Same thing in a
Yeah.
business concept. If they have the vision, you can help them use those raw materials, their talents, along with putting in some other talents from around, maybe or even around the globe, but people that you know and that you
Yep.
trust. Put it together, you build this great sculpture, this great thing that they really wanted from the first get-go.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's that thing they can be proud of, right? It's that, business is a lot about ego as much as it is money. Of it's the thing you're creating that represents you. And that's why again, all these emotions come along with business of shame, guilt, doubt, etc. Because it's a reflection of you, right? It's this thing you're putting out into the world that says, like, here's the thing that I'm going to say I'm really good at. I'm going to ask people's money in exchange for. And so it by helping them build this better business, it helps like define themselves more strongly as well. It's like they get to show this thing that they're building over the course of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, which is my goal. My goal is to help people build businesses for the long term, not don't come to me if you want to do the 1 year, try to exit or sell the business or cash out. I won't be able to help you there.
Hmm.
It's the people who want to have like, this is the thing that I love doing. I'm really great at. I want to find other people who are really great at it and make a great environment for them to succeed. And I want to help people in need of these services, products get what they need from a person who will deliver it in a really great way. That's the thing that I want to do. That's the kind of people and the life that they want to create of that real appreciation for this thing that they've done, this thing that they've built that they can show for the next 5, 10 plus years and really, really feel like they've been successful with it.
And then potentially pass it down to kids, a relative. But if their kids don't want it, they're not interested, they're not passionate about it, well,
Yep,
then what do you do for the kids or the family? And how do you exit, but not flipping it, right? You're not interested in
exactly.
that's
They're
somebody else. It's a different skill set. It's
totally.
building
There's plenty
something
of good
for the
reasons
long
to
term.
sell a business. I should be clear about that too. So it's not about
Sure.
never selling it. It's just not selling it for the reasons of like, hey, I'm gonna see how how much hype I can pump into this thing to sell it for as much as I can within a year. It's hey, it's come time for me to pass this on to the next person who will carry the torch. Maybe it's in family, maybe it's not. There's plenty of good reasons to sell, but I think problem one is build a better business that's a sustainable, healthy, successful business, and then you can decide what you want to do with it when the time comes. But don't build a business to sell it,
To sell
I
it.
guess would be my point. Yeah.
Yes, that right there. I hope everybody got that. Yes, you want to build something becomes an asset that you can sell, but don't try and build a business just to sell it, just because it'll be something to sell, because
Yeah.
it's just too much darn work. It's too hard uh,
Yeah.
to be doing it that way. You've got to be passionate if you're going to own a business. You got to be passionate about it. You got to love it. Because if you don't, it won't
Absolutely.
work. Will not work, right?
Nope. No.
All right. Well, how's the best way to get in touch with you, Jordan? What should people do if they want to say, man, I at least want to talk to this guy?
Yeah. I'll make sure I send over website, email, everything over so you can put it in the show notes.
Yep.
But evergreengrowthcollective.com is the website. You can reach me at Jordan at evergreengrowthcollective.com. Nice and easy. LinkedIn works as well. Jordan Labelle on LinkedIn. Pretty active there. You can see some videos about me chatting about some things on there. And I'd love to just connect. The way I kind of approach everything is if I can have a call with someone and just learn a little bit more about what's going on in their world, in their business, if I can help on the call, that's my goal. If we're a good fit and you want to keep working with me, we'll figure that out. No interaction with me is like a sales call or any kind of things to push. I'm looking to just find people I can help succeed more in business. And then if that can be accomplished on a phone call and that's the only touch points we ever have, that's still a win for me. I've learned some things. I've made a new connection in my network. So if anyone wants to reach out and just chat about what's going on in their world and have another person to just listen in and see what kind of advice I can give, be happy to have that conversation.
See, and that's exactly who we want to have on the Building Your Life podcast, because there are so many out there that unfortunately they're only talking to you to sell you something. And
Yeah.
our philosophy here at Guardian and the Building Your Life podcast is we want to have a conversation to help. And oh, by the way, if it works, great. We'd love to help in a way that we can actually do business together. But
Yep.
frankly, I don't know what the ratio is. I would guess 50% of the people that I have maybe more of the people I have a conversation with, I leave them with some thoughts. Sometimes they come back to me literally a year or two or even 3 years later, and they're ready
Yep.
for us to do business together. Other times I send them off and they do great things away from me. And that's
Yep.
absolutely fine. That is very gratifying to me.
Same.
So it's not about that. It's about asking the right questions. It's about getting to know people, and maybe you make a connection for them.
Yeah.
And that's what
Exactly.
it's all about too.
However we can help. But happy to have the conversations. I just
Yeah.
love talking to business owners.
So we'll put all of your information, all of Jordan's information is down below in the show notes. And also those of you who are familiar with the Building Your Life podcast already know this. You can get in touch with me at guardianrockwealth.com or by texting the word life, just LIFE, super simple, 321-421-5213. Text the word life. You'll get all of my information, lots of free stuff out there, as well as a link to my calendar. And that goes directly to my calendar, not my team. So that is open up. Sometimes it's a little tough to get on the calendar because does get a little busy, but don't give up. And I'm happy to spend some time with you no matter where you are in your financial journey. So thanks for joining us, Jordan. And it's been great. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me. Talk soon.
All right. We'll see you.